So the bottom line is, will the exit polls be right today, or will they go wrong? Often exit polls go wrong. They went wrong in 2004. So Dr. Anderson, my question to you is, why do sometimes exit polls completely get a wrong picture? For example, after 2003, most of the polls said Vajpayee is coming back to power. After 26/11, most of the pollsters said, well, Congress is in a big problem. It's going to be a fractured parliament. Instead of that, from 147, Congress party got 209 seats in Lok Sabha, and Bharatiya Janata Party, which was roughly around 137 and 36 seats, they reduced by another 10 seats.
It depends on the narrative. Once a narrative develops, it often sort of catches on. It's like sort of the famous thing of the Vietnam War, the light at the end of the tunnel became a narrative and people kept looking for it.
And I'll open this for both of you also. Or is it because it's cultural, you know? In every society, people have a way of answering a question. Saying truthfully, well, I will vote for him? Or is it because, you know, the structures in India are slightly more feudal, so people don't come out and say, well, this is the party I'm going to vote for?
Well, sometimes there's an event that will come up that will structure that kind of narrative. Like these elections may well be that, you know, even though, as I think all of us have said, they're not necessarily, you know, a foolproof predictor of what's going to happen. But I can guarantee you, if the Congress does well, the narrative in the press you're going to see for the next several months is that, oh, you know, it's a role for the Congress. That's going to be the narrative. And that has happened in other cases as well. As to, you know, your question is why do, you know, you get a story that sort of so overwhelmingly go in one direction or the other.
Absolutely.
In the case that you mentioned as well. Look at our own presidential election in the U.S. Who would have believed the night of the election that Donald Trump was going to be president? Nobody. None of the polls said that. In fact, he was supposed to be behind 5 to 10 points. And so I'm told he was even surprised.
Are you saying that the institutions which are supposed to be neutral, well, I don't know whether there's anything called neutral, you know, you have a perspective from opposition, also inject their own positions when they read the data, when they go into statistics? Is it because of that?
Well, I mean, I'm not qualified to comment on polling methodology, but I think the whole polling industry across multiple countries has been either discredited or has gone very wonky. I mean, you know, at one stage in my life I believed in fairies and leprechauns and Brigadoon, but you know, believing in polls anymore seems to be a bit of a mug's game. You can't avoid punditry and forecasts. It's like gambling. It's a fact of life. But you know, even if you look at the spread on the poll of polls at the moment, it's a huge spread, which personally makes me want to discount it.
And contradict each other as well.
And contradict each other.
Yeah, I think essentially psephology as well as, you know, this whole business of exit polling is an inexact science. And in India, it's even more inexact because, as you said, culturally, people may not tell you who they're really voting for. In fact, a famous anchor went to a coffee store, a coffee shop, and one bunch of people said, we're not going to tell you. We're going to be good citizens. And we're not chatting on your show to tell you who we're voting for. So there is that reticence sometimes, or people are deliberately misleading.
Is it because of the feudal? Is it because of the feudal structure?
I'm not so sure because I don't think that operates so much. But I wanted to link psephology or polling with the narrative. I think these are two different things, you know. And you asked, are institutions neutral? I mean, we saw famous, you know, networks in the US taking sides and sledging, you know, during debates. So I think we are living in a world where things have got terribly contaminated, you know, and there are, like just this morning I read that Bangladesh is afraid of Pakistani interference in their elections after, you know, what I might call the, you know, Russophobia that spread in...
That's a very important point, you know, that's a very important point. But that has become a global phenomena. You know, Americans are afraid of Russians, you know, Indians feel... There was a narrative when Mitrokin archives came out that Indian politicians were somehow influenced. Now look at the Christian Michael case, Augusta Westland. There is a declassified file from UK which says that his father took the former defence minister, Babu Jagjeevan Ram, to Harrods, the store, and he spent somewhere around £800. So it's not as if it's confined to Bangladesh. It's becoming global because there is a feeling that somehow the governments can be unsettled through data and opinion.
Yes, I think it's the old narrative was dirty tricks, spies, sleaze, whatever, you know. But the new narrative is data, hacking, influencing, social media. In fact, last time there was a very good study from a scholar who's come from Australia originally, but I think is now in Singapore. It's about how mobiles have influenced or changed the way Indians poll. So I think most of us haven't fully got our heads around the exact interface between the old narratives and how they were generated and data, social media, and the digitization, of the public.
Absolutely.
sphere.
Absolutely. I'll come back to you, sir. Now we'll go across to my colleague Krishna, who will tell us why these elections are important and for whom.
Well, Kartikeya, it's important, we all know, but it's important for two of the biggest parties in India, that is the Congress party and the BJP. Every single state election is important, but this time around it's 5 states put together. This is the reason why it's important for the Congress party and the BJP, because for the BJP, it's a question of a sentiment check, so to speak, in the first in an instance of it all, because it will give an idea of what is exactly happening with its state units. But it's ruling more than 19 out of 29 states would cement BJP's hold. That's what we're talking about over here. BJP already has a stranglehold across state governments of the country. It will cement that hold. It will give the required boost ahead of the 2019 general elections, as I was talking about. The sentiment of it all, that, the party is still in the good books of the Janta, the public over there, will re-emphasize strategy of the Shah-Modi duo. Yes, the kind of strategy that's gone into these 5 state elections could be replicated when it comes to the campaign for 2019's, in terms of be it in terms of how they've made sure that their electorate comes out for them to vote, or for that matter with other parties, and how that situation can unfold. Now, contributes to 83 seats in the Lok Sabha, can guarantee a greater majority in 2019. These 5 states, if the people over there are happy with the BJP as a party, there is a likelihood that they will be happy with BJP as a party and Prime Minister Modi as the Prime Minister come 2019. This is the reason why, all of these reasons, it's important for the BJP. Now let's talk about the Congress party, the grand old party, how important these 5 state elections are. Win in any of the 3 BJP bastions will be a boost ahead of 2019. That's right, Congress needs a boost. Karnataka was 50-50. Gujarat was also close but also far away. Battle for 5 states is all that Congress has got on its way to trying to put up a good fight in the 2019 elections. Winning any of the 3 BJP bastions will be a boost ahead of the year 2019. And apart from that, Congress will have to see how it's performing in the big states, especially in this battle of 5 states. Will be a stamp of approval of Rahul Gandhi's leadership. That's important, because it's not been long since Rahul Gandhi has taken charge as the official head of the party, and this is another acid test for him. Morale boost for the cadre ahead of the general elections. It's also, these are the kind of things that sort of gets the party going, gets the blood, pumping in the veins of the party ahead of such a big election. That's the general Indian elections of 2019. Wresting a state from BJP months before general elections will be an image booster. It's all about psychology over here. If Congress can snap Rajasthan away from BJP, if Congress can snap Chhattisgarh away from the BJP, it will be a shot in the arm for the Congress party, and also sort of make itself aware of what it needs to do, how it needs to replicate some of these strategies when it comes to the general elections of 2019. And with that, Kartikeya, I hand it back to you.
Thank you, Krishna. So Mr. Paranjpe, you were making a point as to how India stands at the cusp of new and old, where the new technologies have opened up new venues and the people reflect their opinion in a very different way. Lateral networking has increased. You have greater participation of civil society through mobile application, which was not the case. So you have the emergence of the national, not only national middle class, but the national middle class consensus, which was very visible when the anti-corruption campaign started. But these elections, for the first time, were on very local issues. Unlike all the previous assembly elections where one national issue dominated, whether it was terror or corruption, personality, or a jibe, even personal jibe. In these elections, it went hyper-local. Why has that happened? Why has that happened?
Well, I think at least as far as Rajasthan is concerned, the BJP realized that there was no wave right now. In fact, their own leader wasn't the most popular person, to put it mildly, within the party circles, let alone outside. So you had to, get your organization, the machine, the party machine swung into the act and tried to localize issues and offer remedies rather than making it a pro or anti-Vasundhara Raje type of campaign. And I think similarly, if you look at the obverse of this, Chhattisgarh, Dr. Raman Singh is well known, he's quite popular. So obviously the opposition, whether it's Jogi or the Congress, they try to localize matters because it can't be a Raman Singh or against vote, in which case it would not possibly go in their favor. So I think when there are stronger leaders, then local issues emerge. Or if there are leaders who are not that popular, the incumbent party will take to local issues. So I think it's strategizing.
Jasper?
I agree with what Makran says as well. Just, I mean, to add to that, I think this is also a reflection, Kartikeya, of where the overall reform and economic reform agenda's at. I mean, this is, we've said many times, it is a daunting challenge to take India from where it is to where it needs to be, even without relating it to mainland China or other places. And I think it's the brute reality at the moment that at the end of 2018, there's a whole bunch of fairly sketchy economic indicators. Liquidity's poor, the stock market's had a bad year. It's not clear that many of the promises have been executed. So I think there's a need, particularly on the BJP side, to divert attention from that. Now, having said all of that, and we'll come back to this, I'm sure, through the show, pretty much any party would probably be in the same boat at the moment. They get in by a lot of promises. They then find execution harder than they expected. They've then got to batten down the hatches and get a second term, right? So I think that's part of what's going on.
There's something else to two other issues. One is most of the issues that are controversial now are issues that the states handle, in which state bureaucracies handle. I'm thinking of water, agriculture, schools. Those are all state subjects, and so how the states handle that, will focus, the electorate. And the states, in many cases, have not been handling these issues well. And in this case, those states happen to be BJP states. Then there's a second issue. The Congress is trying to make sure this is not a presidential election. I think they don't like the idea of Rahul versus Modi, because all the polls I've seen indicate that Modi is still quite popular. In fact, more popular than Rahul. That could change after these elections. But that's the fact. That, and in fact, in these three states, that he's considerably more popular than his own party. I agree with you. I think he's tried to sort of, play down his presence, because in case the party doesn't do all that well, he won't be associated with that. But so you have two things. One is strategy. The Congress wants the issues to be local. The BJP would, in many ways, like them to be national, but their problem is to do that, you've got to put Modi up front, and they're not anxious to do that, I think, in this case. So there's a strategy here. And then the issues are local issues.